Burgess and Bolton's weekly wrap-up. Burgess and Bolton's weekly wrap-up. Burgess and Bolton's weekly wrap-up. Burgess and Bolton's weekly wrap. Burgess and Bolton's weekly wrap-up.
Hello, Ben.
Hi, Kieran. Happy Friday.
Yep, indeed. You all right?
Yeah, I'm all right. I've had a bit of a cold, but man flu.
Yeah. Nothing too much to worry about.
No, I've got through it.
Good. Welcome, everybody, to this week's edition of Burgess and Bolton's weekly wrap-up, where we look at everything to do with the London market, change, technology, innovation, culture. And this week we got the second part of our interview with Lee Elliston, ahead of London Market Claims conference week on Tuesday. Crikey, it's coming around quickly. And we will pick that up. But let's get the show on the road. We got the news. Ben, I've got a couple of bits of news this week. Select the right one. So I saw this. So I actually saw this on LinkedIn. It looks like old news, 10th of August, but fine dining restaurant planned for the top of Lloyd's of London. And yeah, what was interesting about this story was a couple of things. Firstly, it obviously been cobbled together by a mixture of a press release and then Wikipedia. So they've just cut and pasted bits of the press release and then cut and pasted bits of Wikipedia just to fill it out in between. So it's quite funny. Yeah. It reads quite funny. Yeah. High-end dining designed to attract more clients and members of the public. So there we are.
Go on. We won't. What, members of the blooming dirty public? We don't want them in there. What are you talking about?
I'm not sure the views out of that building are that great anymore, are they? But anyway, and then it tells you how tall it is, which is obviously important for the story. But then it goes on to say that it was established in the Lloyd's Coffee House, and since then things have improved in terms of hospitality and food. That's good. And proposed changes might be well-being facilities, including a gym, changing rooms, and quiet spaces for prayer and contemplation. So I was just thinking who might be in those rooms for prayer and consultation. It might be the Blueprint 2 leadership team, or what's left of them.
Praying for a miracle.
Yeah. Could be brokers, couldn't it?
Yeah.
Praying for a
praying to get something covered. Someone praying for rate rises for sure. Some contemplation of bad behaviour. I should imagine there'd be a few in that one.
Yeah. So
it begs the question: what would you pray for if you were in there?
Yeah. Put it in the chat. Answer on the postcard.
Yeah.
That's quite funny. And then the final bit, and I just saw this as well. So they're going to reduce the size of the grand underwriting room so they could fit more screens in to allow people to attend digitally. Attend what? Why would you have to go to the... We've said this before. I don't understand why you would need a room to go to if you were attending. It's like me saying to Ben, I'll meet you at your office. Could you send me a Teams link?
Yeah. I agree. I don't understand. This is where this almost uniquely in this market, people just don't seem to understand half the time what they're talking about. So they cobble, as you say, they compile sentences that have the right words in, but not necessarily in the right order.
Yeah.
So he probably thought, or she probably thought, let's put digitally in there because that's what they're talking about. But then attend.
Yeah.
Well, what do you... I don't think you attend digitally, do you? Unless it's a avatar.
Yeah. And in a place, you don't take your laptop to a... I don't know. I just don't get it. Anyway, it's quite funny. Yeah, it's worth having a look at that article. It is.
Well, I mean, the whole thing is very confused. And I know that John Neal the other week kind of went poo-pooed or seemed to poo-poo the idea of a restaurant. So whereas Carnegie Brown had talked about it in sort of fairly positive terms, I thought. So I don't know what's going on with this consultation that is supposed to be coming out soon. It would be really interesting to see what they say. I suspect it's quite. I suspect internally it's quite controversial and quite difficult as to where you go with all of this, because obviously some people will be arguing to keep the underwriting room, which I know is hugely important to Lloyd's. So to lose it would be, a hard decision, but they've got to probably face facts or think about whatever the future is, that perhaps they don't need such a large room. And then, as we've had the Savills people on saying they're up for, but the lease is up for renewal in 2030, I think now, isn't it? So it's not that long in real terms that they have to start thinking about whether they're going to be in this building at all.
Yeah. See what's on the menu, Ben. When it comes.
If it's fine dining, I don't know what it would be. Yeah, it might be vegetarian with the new ESG. Vegan with the new ESG strictures that are coming in. We won't have
slightly off piece, but why have they got a veggie Pret and a normal Pret next door to each other? Surely they can just sell the veggie stuff in a normal Pret. Man, I don't know.
That feels like it's some kind of segregation going on.
It does, yeah. Only meat eaters in this one.
Well, it sort of singles you out, doesn't it, as a, antediluvian.
Another piece of news I picked up. So Amazon enters UK business insurance market.
Really? Come on, Amazon.
Come on,
smash them. Smash the lot of them.
So this is quite interesting, and for a couple of reasons. So firstly, another press release stroke Wikipedia article put together here. London-based InsurTech Superscript, formerly known as Digital Risks, has opened its door to the e-commerce giant Amazon to enter the business insurance market in the UK. So basically, if you're a premium account holder, Prime account holder with Amazon Business, then they're going to offer you 20% off your various flexible insurance for small businesses. says Superscript, which came to life in 2015 before rebranding last year in a LinkedIn post. Irrelevant, but anyway, moving on. Yeah. So this is so I think this is the interesting bit. So they said much more customer-centric buying process that will bridge the divide between clients and insurers. So somewhere along the line, they've said that there is a disconnect here between what insurance is supposed to offer and what actually client experience of that offer is. So I think that's your Amazon piece, isn't it? Just going, hang on, I've spotted an opportunity there to kind of, as it says, bridge the divide.
I don't know. So what Amazon is doing, presumably, here is providing the platform and the client base, obviously, potentially, and the brand. More importantly, the brand is really important to this, I should imagine. Question of whether this is actually disruptive to the insurance industry, I don't know, because it's actually capital that comes, it does come from the carriers, doesn't it? Because it doesn't say who those carriers are, but the capital is coming from traditional insurers via this InsurTech thing, which is presumably it's got some sort of MGA status, and then Amazon fronts it. So, what to your point, is this changing? Is this disrupting anything? In other words, is it cheaper? One, if it's cheaper, it might disrupt. In other words, you get. The other thing is, could you buy all your, which is a big thing now, and everybody seems to want, but nobody seems to be able to do this. Can you buy all your insurance in a package, a bundled up package? Yeah, that would be really interesting, because I would probably do that, and it might be delivered quickly as well if it's Amazon. Might be that might be a good thing. And I don't know. I kind of think the Amazon brand has got a lot. Is reliable and trustworthy, and it does what it says. So they're not going to let you down, are they? I would think so. They're going to make it work. Although Superscript sounds a bit kind of small and insubstantial, doesn't it? Really.
Yeah, I don't quite know why they didn't keep their name, but I think there's two things about that, and one will come on to kind of the broader points that you raised. So the first one is Cameron and Shearer, and that I immediately just thought of as a massive.
Yeah, they're funny names, aren't they?
Yeah, there they are.
Cameron Shearer.
Yeah,
he's got a colleague on the board called Shearer Cameron as well.
Oh, really?
Also doing it. Yeah, he's the finance director.
Cool, but I've said this. Bridge the divide. But what he also said was, and I thought this was quite interesting, because a lot of people that I've talked to have said a similar thing, kind of like Amazon, they're not really doing insurance, are they? They are just kind of fronting it and a bit of a distribution way of doing it. However, it does play into what a lot of people are talking about, which is kind of a new kind of ecosystems of insurance distribution, where you'll buy a car and it already comes with certain
embedded insurance,
or you might buy whatever it is through Amazon as part of your business, and it might be a laptop, and they might go, you've now bought 8 laptops, you probably want to cover them, here's a bit. And I think the flexibility element is quite good, because if you are a small, medium-sized company, then quite often you scale, you either scale up or scaling down quite quickly, and therefore your insurance, what you need to cover changes quite rapidly, and you might not be aware of that. And so they'll be adding value by going, hey, you've now got 20 employees, whereas last month you only had 10. You may need to look at this or that area. You've now got these risks.
So you wonder where they're going to. I mean, there's potentially all sorts of places where Amazon can leverage this. I mean, obviously you can. The customer base is huge, is monumental. So and the loyalty, I suppose, in a sense of that base, and the knowledge of the Amazon system. Behind the scenes, I should think they're pretty good on all the kind of data GDPR stuff as well. So that was the thing I think with embedded products in banking is that the work has been done, if you like, on the compliance within the systems, so that you are able to sell things to people off other things effectively. Cross-selling, you might call embedded product development, I think. That may be too simplistic, but that's kind of the way I understand it. And this is sort of transferring over to insurance. And if that's what Amazon is hooking into, to say, well, effectively, we could do what the banks do with our customer base for insurance. They wouldn't necessarily want to compete with the banks, because often the banks don't have the same sort of products, and the banks probably wouldn't let them. But the insurers will, because it's just another distribution channel, isn't it, effectively, for them, which is, as you say, potentially huge, because once Amazon learns and looks at the data, which I suspect they're also very good at, and says, look, okay, Jeremy's bought 3 products and 23 trillion other Jeremys have bought the same, you suddenly have that immense marketing power and leverage to just up that. And then it potentially does become disruptive, because Amazon approaches the carriers, and Amazon may say, we will take on some of the capital risk. We'll actually, it could be a real game changer.
Yeah, it feels to me like they've obviously got a plan. Because I've seen the business, do you want to open up a business account with Amazon? And I never have done, because I generally have it delivered to my house anyway.
Yeah.
But you can see if lots and lots of businesses are taking that up, as you say, they're going to start to compile that data, and then they're going to be able to look at it and go, actually, we've got a whole group of people, a little bit like Bought by Many. They can look and go, wow, there's a whole segment of people that are being missed by traditional insurance.
Yeah.
There you go.
Too right. I mean, if Amazon says to my business, and I guess your business says, look, there are a range of products that are designed for your business, and you can buy them through Amazon bundled up every year. No, take my money.
Yeah.
Take my money. I would just be saying, fine, no problem. I don't want, we've talked about this before, standard insurance is a convenience purchase, and I want to turn it on and off occasionally if it's PI, for example, and I don't want the fag of filling in those ridiculous scruffy old forms, that come through from brokers on behalf of carriers. And so yeah, if that was simplified, I would absolutely go for that. God.
Yeah.
I mean, more power to their elbow.
I think it's worth watching this space. Quite a lot of people I spoke to have kind of brushed it off as like, no, it's not really insurance, is it? So, but I think it could be the start of something a bit more disruptive than perhaps what they're thinking about. But anyway, we shall wait and see.
Let's hope we get our commission on the basis of that small advert for Amazon.
Yes, I hope you're watching, Jeff.
One of the greatest retail outlets in the world.
True fact.
If we keep doing this, we'll get a space trip by the end of the year.
Oh, yeah, that's it. That'd be brilliant. We could get Battleface insurance for that.
Yes.
My favourite brand.
We're all buying that. I think that's what Amazon should invest in. It probably has. Battleface.
We'll have more Battleface news next week, but I don't want to preempt anything. But right, let's get on to the main part of the show this week, which is the second part of our interview with Lee Ellison. Now, Lee was talking last week quite a bit about delegated authority and just generally the rate of change in the marketplace. And we kind of got to a point in our conversation where I'd asked him about whether he thinks there's been a mindset shift in the market to embrace change at a more fundamental level than we've seen in the past. So let's pick up the conversation here, and then we'll come back and have a chat about it. Here we go.
I wouldn't say that there's been a mindset shift. I think traditionally the market has been great at trying to articulate why we can't do things and why things will never work. And it's disappointing, because the best thing about the marketplace is the people. The people make the marketplace. They give Lloyd's and the Lloyd's market and the London market its USP, because it's the knowledge, the experience, the level of collaboration, the relationships that we've got, and how that all, turns into how we deliver products and respond to products and deliver service and do it in quite a bespoke way, in some quite complex and challenging scenarios. But whilst those people give the market its USP, they're people that don't really have a mindset around trying things that are new, shaping things differently, and allowing things to almost develop and deliver when they're not quite ready. And we don't live in a perfect world. So why should we live in this perfect world of delivering change or transformation when everything's got to line up and be 10 out of 10 and ready for every single user that might access it on day one? So I think there needs to be a big mindset shift in the market. I don't think that's just a claims issue. I think it's just a market issue. Do I think that comes from the skills and capabilities that we've got in our marketplace? Absolutely. I say that because I don't believe that we've got diverse enough skills. I think we need to be swelling the market with skills and mindsets that come from different backgrounds and industries. And I think if you put that together with the strength of the insurance knowledge and skill set that we've got, then you take the mindset and the capability level of our people in the market to a different place. But we've got to want to attract different skills, and we've got to want to attract different people. And that comes from organisations wanting to do things differently.
Yeah, there's a great, Jeremy knows I love quoting things, but there's a great sort of body of work by a guy called Theodore Levitt, who used to write a lot about why businesses worked or didn't work. And he says that, that businesses that were once very successful, they nearly always fail because of management and because of the management attitudes. And the other thing he says is that they also fail because there's no, because they're not failing. In other words, they're not frightened. There's no fear factor. There's no competition factor. So, you, me, lots of people like John Muir, we've all talked about this kind of complacency, this kind of idea that we're all kind of safe, really, and it's all right. And I wonder, when you're talking, it's very interesting because it seems to me that we're talking more in the kind of almost the behavioural science area here rather than the kind of the operational world. And again, I think that the business model certainly that I have talked about and sort of picked up around where insurance is and has been, is it's still in the operating model world or the operational world. It's not in the customer driven world. And the questions, I suppose, are to me are about how you pick up on those people and celebrate those people who are in the customer driven world. And you're working iteratively. That is one way of doing it. I think I absolutely agree with that. I think those workshops you did, I think you did workshops on some of the delegated authority stuff, and I saw them on LinkedIn and I thought, absolutely, that's exactly what we should be doing more of. Because if you look back a bit, and this is a sort of simplistic point, but who's reading all these papers? I mean, who if you ever chat to somebody in a bar, whoever reads all the blueprints, people like us do, obviously, but then most of the rest of the people just get up and go to work and do the job. So I'm sort of thinking, but they do love talking about people and what they do and those conversations. I think the mindset needs to change at the top is partly what I'm suggesting, with the leadership as well, who have come habituated to think they should talk about the operational stuff, not necessarily. In the end, it's the people that will change all of this.
It is the people, absolutely. It's the people. It's the people's mindsets and their approach going forward that will make any change successful, whether that change is process, technology, or data. If you've got the right capabilities within a business or even a claims team, if you like, to think about what change needs to be delivered and then implementing that change on an iterative basis, can you do it with a team of claims handlers that have historically just worked on class, ECF and the IMR? No, you can't.
No.
Can you do it with a diverse team that is bringing a change background from outside the insurance industry, that is bringing data science and data analytical skills from outside of the industry and customer service skills from outside of the industry? Yeah, you've got a great chance of focusing the change in the right areas for the right reasons, and making that change successful.
Yeah.
But I don't see many change programs being set up in that way. It's very traditional in that we'll get some claims handlers or claims managers or people within our claims ops team to sit on the side of their desk and do a project, and we'll supplement it with a consultancy. And guess what? The consultancy just brings a slightly different capability level than what's already within the business.
And usually it's and I think you mentioned the word bureaucracy earlier on, and that is the problem of a market like this, where effectively we are dealing with bureaucracies, not just the Lloyd's bureaucracy, but we're talking about very large institutional organisations that are huge bureaucracies, really, and they therefore, that they behave as all bureaucracies do in the way that they behave. And I wonder, in that regard, because I think, and and we know that there are lots of claims, or if we just take claims, but also underwriting teams who have worked really, really well despite having not great technology. And they've done a really great service, and they do deliver, I'd say, service that is as good as any other market that I would look at. So it is, when you look at it and take that evidence, it isn't just all about the technology. The technology should be there to augment what they already do well, in my view, right? But I wonder, and this is a question for you, Lee, whether we think about this now in retrospect, is whether the whole kind of Lloyd's communications program and everything, and I know you're part of it, so that's sorry about this, but when it's the way you frame the question. If the implication of Blueprint and the talk about technology is that the only real problem is technology, and if we just solve that, everyone will be all right. I'd say that I've worked with lots of teams in the market where they said exactly that to me at the beginning of a project. The problem is, Ben, we haven't got the MI and the data at our fingertips. And I said, that's fine, but what else have you got? Well, you've got some great people. You've got some, and if you started behaving differently, working differently, you could work around, and all those teams worked around a lot of those issues. They were left with some big, chunky technology problems, but everybody knew what they were and they could manage expectations. So I just wonder if if we need to stop framing the question as if the problem is technology. In other words, saying that technology is only going to be a part of the solution for all of you, and you can get on with the other stuff regardless.
Yeah, I think there's some truth to that. I think that we throw out technology as the silver bullet, and I think it's something that we can all point to historically in the market and say we haven't got the tools to do our job as effectively as we would like to, and there's some truth to that. But it's not just a technology only play. If we give people the right tools, back to have we transformed or have we modernized? If we just give people the right tools, all we will have done is modernized. We will have modernized what we did 2 or 3 years prior. And it's about more than that. It's about changing the mindset of people, having a diverse level of skill within the team, iterating on change, and making sure that data plays a key role in how you make decisions around claims, how you make decisions internally to inform your underwriters or your actuaries, how you make decisions around whether you're going to appoint an expert or you're going to make an early settlement decision on a claim. All of that comes from data and people. It doesn't come from technology. Technology might make it easier to access, but it's not where it comes from.
Yeah.
And actually, someone said the other day, you can actually build up claims, even in these new businesses without legacy. You can build up claims data and knowledge quite quickly. Within a couple of renewals cycles, you can actually have enough data. And actually, because you're clean of legacy, you've got more time to look at it. You can look at more of the granular stuff. I thought that was really, really interesting, because that is your kind of iterative stuff, isn't it? And it goes to Jeremy's point, which is ditch the legacy, ditch focusing on that big hairy problem because you can't really solve it, and focus on the things you can do well.
Yeah, I would love an organisation out there to get their arms around a portfolio of business and say, I'm going to let the the people within our organisation that have got analytical or data related capabilities to focus on this portfolio for a period of time, and I want them to propose decisions that they would make at certain points in the claims journey, and I want them to do that from insights of data alone, not looking at loss reports, not looking at ECF and documentation that might sit from what the broker's presented. Just look at data alone. And I'd love someone to run a bit of a proof of concept against the real life decisions that have been made on those claims, and really look at what outcomes would have been different. Would there have been better outcomes and decisions for the organisation? Would there have been better outcomes and decisions for the customer? And would those decisions and outcomes have been reached quicker? And I would love somebody to kind of run that dual process while they can, and then look at what the answers are and how you can start to scale that different approach across the business. Because I'm pretty sure it would lead you to much better outcomes for claims. I'm pretty sure it would.
So would I. I think that's really interesting. And there's enough new players in the market who I think we could, maybe at the conference, we can encourage a few and have a chat about it, because I'm sure some would like to do it, and it's not expensive, and it would be easy to facilitate some of that.
It's just a different way of. I remember in my days prior to the LMA, you would get graduates that would come in, and they would be part of your claims team, and you would make them part of the kind of peer review process, and they'd almost be doing this real time shadowing and a second adjustment on the claim to get up to speed with the intricacies of the portfolio or the product they're responding to, and how they're looking at the claim details. And it's almost doing that, but just doing it in a very different way around data and analytics and insights. And I think it would reap some really good results and benefits.
Yeah, we talked again this week at my first live conference. So I'm just going to talk on and on and on about it. But anyway, we had a very interesting conversation about how the market has changed over 20 years. And I think the initial thing from it's Angus Watson, yes, of course, at Aon, and was talking about when they first started. You know, they were all in they get all the interns in the post room, and then they get and looking at data. And actually, when we started to reflect on that, we said actually there was a lot of value in that manual data sorting and looking at some of that, because it wasn't kind of sitting in some kind of fancy report, you know, in a Power BI document or something. You actually saw the granular detail of what was going on. So the physicality and the tangibility of that was really, really important. And I said that that's exactly the same in my research business. You know, there is still and always will be quite a lot of manual, hands-on looking at stuff, you know, and human beings kind of testing it, you know, and this is kind of the fallacy of AI, isn't it? That you can do all that stuff. You can do some of it, but not all of it. So I think maybe some of that in that process you described would be fantastic to say, which bits do you just, because, you know, in my business, we've learned so much from looking at manual data. I know you have, Jeremy, as well. We kind of all have to do this. You go back to the basics of where you first started, and that, you know, I talked about framing the question. Sometimes you can lose all that because you think it's all going to be solved by an algorithm or a fancy system, but that's not going to be the case.
Well, the process that I just described, if it was to get looked at by an organisation out there, focuses on skills, people, and data, and getting the best outcomes from those things. As they are going through that process, they are effectively writing a new process map, and they are effectively writing the automation rules that are required for the future. But where you're not starting with a process optimization project, and you're not starting with a claims automation project. That is where you will end up, and you will benefit from the work they're doing around the data, the analytics, and the insights that will be driven from it. So there's almost you're writing the rule book for the future as you're going through the process.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's good. we've only got about 5 minutes left. I want to move on to claims. Obviously, your remit, and you're taking part in the London Market Claims conference. Well, we all are in 2 or 3 weeks' time. So I just wanted to kind of just get kind of your take on how you feel the claims community is embracing change. You know, do you think that they're doing enough to firstly embrace it, as I said, but then push it forward? What's your view? And also a supplementary question is, at the conference, what would you like to see discussed at those round tables, and perhaps some of the outcomes we would like to generate?
I think I've said before at your conference pre-pandemic that there's been a lot of talk but not enough action, and I definitely feel that's the case from a centralised perspective. Do I think that people are set up to make changes around claims within their own organisations? Yes, I do. And I think people are looking at that and starting out on that journey. I think the pace of change centrally is super slow to an unacceptable level. The reason I say it's unacceptable is because the claims community did a great job at coming together across both the Lloyd's market and the company market about 4 years ago. And they did so whilst getting the key broker stakeholders in the room. We had a very clear strategy around what needed to change in claims, where the priorities were, what the low-hanging fruit was, and how that will enable process change following that in the future. 4 years from when we did that work, I don't really feel as though we've moved the dial at all from a central perspective. I would say the claims community are fairly frustrated at that point. I would say some people are not even frustrated. They've just lost the enthusiasm and energy to get involved in any kind of centralised project or any kind of delivery. And that's disappointing at the moment, because the most successful projects are the ones that utilise market SMEs with the right mindset, and they come in and drive it forward and make it happen. And that's when you see the right outcome from the project, the right outcome from the process change, the right technology get delivered, and that's all proven by the high rate of adoption. If you don't have those market SMEs engaged and involved, then I'm not sure we will end up with a successful outcome for the market. So I think we're in a bit of an odd place at the moment, which is why I think we need to hit the reset button, which I referred to earlier. People don't like talking about resets and pauses because they just like to keep going. But I think keeping going in the current sense is probably a little bit dangerous. I think we should reset and just work out what the real priorities are for claims and how we make that happen with the marketplace. I think as part of that, let's just be very simple about what we need to do. Claims is no more complicated than notification, assessment, and payment. And if we can get 3 things done in those areas, we will have moved the dial. Notification and what we do at the front end of the claim can provide better client and customer experience. Giving people the right data at the right point in the process so they can assess the claim means you're probably going to make smarter decisions and earlier decisions, which has good outcomes for the business and the customer. And making payments or setting expectations around payments when they'll be made and received is just a BAU. You should just expect that to happen. So I think we can overcomplicate it at times. So go back to basics, reset, and start to deliver tangible and iterative change.
Yeah. And I think that that's fantastic. call to action. I would say that that's got to go onto the leadership agenda, hasn't it, as well? Because I think if you're saying it's been 4 years, then clearly leadership, and I've seen some of this myself, where leadership says, yeah, great claims, we want to hear what you've got to say, but I've got to have the evidence to go back to my boards and tell them that actually claims is a really exciting opportunity for us as a business. But if kind of bugger all's going on, then they're going to say, look, I've got plenty of other priorities to look at. Thank you very much. But I really like the idea of the simple kind of notion of if those things are not working, those simple metrics are not being delivered or getting better, which I talk about a lot and we'll talk about at the conference, then you're not raising the bar. There's nothing happening. And if the bar's not raising, then there must be competition coming in to say we're going to do it, whether that's from the centre or from somewhere else. But it's a good thing to talk about at the conference, I think, definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I really like that very kind of simplistic. Let's look at those things and let's bring those out at the conference in a couple of weeks' time and get some feedback and get a sense of the urgency and trying to get some urgency. I think it sounds like into the room. It's always a pleasure to talk to you, Lee. That your passion for this stuff comes through in spades. So I can't wait to meet you at the conference so we can carry on the conversation. But yeah, thanks ever so much for coming on today.
Thanks,
really appreciate the time, Ben, Jeremy. Thank you as always, and look forward to the conference and testament to you guys for sticking with it and having an in-person event. The networking and collaboration that we need to get back into the market is critical for the market's future, and having events like yours will just support that.
Yeah,
great. See you there. Thanks a lot.
Cheers, Lee.
It's always great talking to Lee. As I said there, his enthusiasm comes through. And what I like about both those two interviews, part one last week and this week, is just kind of just a refreshingly honest appraisal of where we are and the issues and challenges we face. And just, a couple of things that I wrote down, that feeling, and it came through in the way that he spoke, that feeling of frustration that it's painfully slow, this stuff. And it seems to be, from what he was saying over the two interviews, that we seem to be retracing the same steps to find out what the problems are. We find out what the problems are. We have a clear plan, and then we just go back and we go, actually, are those really the right problems? And we go back and we reassess and they are the right problems, and then a different thing. And it's just, and I think his last point around those three areas of notification, assessment, and then payment, I think I think we should probably use those, Ben, as a bit of a starting point for our talk at the conference.
Yeah,
in a couple
good
of
idea. I agree. I think those, to get some simple measures of success and where we're going, and therefore proof points are going to be really important for this. I think there's a lot of, as we know, there's a lot of data chucked around about what success is determined on. But yeah, that's a simple framework, and I would use it. Yeah, I think I like the idea as well of the bottom-up approach, not top-down. I think you can tell he's frustrated with that, the institutional, the enterprise type of approach to things, which clearly is not bearing fruit over the years. And also, he seems to have had quite a bit of success, as I think many people outside of the industry, and he's right about diverse approaches and different people. There's too many people still in insurance doing it the same way they've always done it, and the chance to look at things and do them differently isn't really discussed very much. I don't often discuss it very much with people, so it's you would absolutely no doubt that the approach he's talking about would yield quite different views and things that we could start experimenting with. I think he made that point. Maybe it was the last week. He talked about the idea of being able to fail and try things new and different. That would be important in claims. But it seems to be caught in a kind of almost claims gets caught up in a kind of religious wars type argument about should you be about adjusting or service? Is it either or? I don't think it is. It's both, right? But
yeah. No, really good stuff. So yeah, thanks once again for Lee for coming up, teeing up some of those challenges.
He's running the marathon this weekend as well, so wish him luck if he's listening.
I hope he gets around before the 12th.
He's going to do it. He reckons he's going to do it quite quickly. I saw him last night. 4 hours, he thinks.
Wow,
not bad.
Not bad. What's he driving again? Only joking, Lee.
He's not doing the drinks cart, Jeremy.
Oh right, okay.
He's going to be fully lycra'd up, I reckon.
All right, yeah.
We're going to look out for him. Get a photo on next week.
Yeah, definitely. Good stuff. Excellent. Right. We should reflect on. Well, it wasn't really mine, but your golf prediction of last week, Ben, of a resounding success for the Europeans.
My God, I tell you what, we're going to be talking about not knowing about the future of the conference, and that is a flipping prime example of how bad you can get a prediction wrong.
However, what I do think we got right was the area around team spirit, because you did actually see a proper team spirit within the US camp that we haven't seen before. And I think that was probably the edge that they gave them. And once they'd got onto the momentum, of course, confidence builds, positivity, and away they ran away with it.
It's pretty challenging. I mean, I think there's an inherent unfairness at the moment in this. If one of the European players said, if you hit a 225-yard shot into a green which is 3 feet away from the pin and there isn't a sound except for a few boos, that's pretty depressing, right? And I think that is a massive obstacle, because if you have that spirit and you really want to, and I think it's pretty bad of the American crowd to do that, to be honest. So I'm blaming them. It's
of course.
Nothing to do with the players or their skills or their team spirit. It's that American drunken yobs.
Yeah. USA.
Oh, God almighty.
Oh, my God.
What a set and idiots some of them are, aren't they? And it's that Ryder Cup thing that they're the worst in that one, it seems. I don't know why.
Nor do I. I don't quite understand golf anyway, so I don't know why I'm talking about it. But there we go. Excellent. What are you doing this weekend, Ben? Any sporting activities, or it's wet and damp? It's turned autumn, hasn't it?
No, I'm not actually. I'm only taking my son to play football. That's all. I'm not actually doing anything. I'm too ill I'm recovering. I'm in recovery mode.
Yeah, good.
So I'll try and get out back on the bike next week. But no. What about you?
I think we're going to spend the weekend hunting for fuel, but it's a bit like fox hunting. But
I managed to secure some the other day, which is quite pleasing. But
well done.
It's just kind of ridiculous, isn't it? That that's what they should do with insurance, right? Tell people they can't have it.
Yeah, exactly. I was thinking that as well.
It's a fantastic way of increasing demand. I can tell you, prohibition, it works. And that, I'm going to say, you can't buy any insurance from Chubb or Liberty or something. They'll be queuing around the block.
Exactly. I saw a brilliant sign outside a pub that says, beer shortage, panic buy here. I thought it was quite good. What I do like is when the politicians come in going, there is no fuel shortage. We've got lots and lots of fuel. I'm going, I'll tell you what, mate, there is a fuel shortage, because when you go to the garage, there isn't any fuel, and it ain't my problem.
And guess what? Lesson number 1 in crisis communications is don't mention the thing you don't want to happen, like panic buying and the army. Yeah. Oh, guess what's happened?
Yeah. Brilliant. Love it. Okay, good. Thanks, Ben. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. We shall see you all next week. Yes, have a good weekend. Bye.
Bye.